This is Moneyline Mania with Chaz and the crew.
Mr. Chaz, how are we doing this week?
We're excited for a couple reasons. One, last week is over. Tough week. I didn't do great. I'm not a stupid guy. When I lose, I don't lose a lot of money. When I win, I usually win a lot of money. So that's not a bad combination. I'm excited because we're getting closer to the World Cup. Paulo, who's joining us tonight, is a soccer guy. We went 6 months where there was nothing to talk about but 3 countries that had soccer and 2 racetracks in the middle of the country that were allowing horse races with no people. Not even the owners could show up. The trainer and the jockey were the only 2 people that could come in the groom, of course, for the horses. That was the heart of the pandemic. Paulo and I did a show every single week, and we learned about all these countries. We're Americans. We're not necessarily all savvy on the rest of the world because we don't really give a crap about the rest of the world. We're Americans. We were talking about like the Faroe Islands, and I had to look it up because I really did not know. I kind of thought it was up in the Northern Circle, but I had no idea where it was. And they have like a small summer, but they have a soccer league, and we were betting on that. So pretty excited to have him come in and talk some soccer with us.
I am going to the World Cup at the end of November. I'm going to see Ghana and Uruguay. We're going to be going to Dubai first for a couple of days and then flying to Qatar and experience the first time of my life a World Cup. The guys that I'm going with have been there 5 times. Every 4 years they go wherever it is and they go on this trip. It's something to experience. My friend Chris, who travels all over the world, told me you have to experience before you have kids.
How cool is it that you got some people that have done it? They know the routine. There's a routine. If you go to every NFC championship game or if you go to every Super Bowl, if you go to a playoff game, there's a routine that soccer has, and you don't have to do anything but follow along and not have to worry about getting in trouble.
Hopefully, being that we're 5 Americans going to another third world country, we don't get killed.
You can't do stupid stuff. We feel bad for Brittany Griner, right? But she made a mistake. She left her paraphernalia in her suitcase. You got to shake the bag out, man. These countries,
Chaz,
you got to be careful.
Chaz, do you know me? Anybody knows me personally knows that I'm a crazy SOB. So could you imagine me in another country where people finally get to know me? They're going to be scared of me. It'll be fun.
That's a good game, too, because Ghana and Uruguay, right, are pretty equal.
That actually is a very interesting game with Ghana and Uruguay. I don't think that they're going to be contenders for this World Cup.
That's the thing about the World Cup. When you go to the Olympics and you get tickets to rowing and you're on a river somewhere and they're rowing, it's still the Olympics. The fact that you're not watching anybody that's going to make it to the quarterfinals is irrelevant. He's going to be in the arena. He's going to deal with that atmosphere. That could end up being a 0-0 game, a 1-1 game, something like that, and you will have the greatest time because you'll get rid of that whole word about soccer is boring because they don't score goals. Soccer's incredible, and sometimes they do score goals.
The thing is that this World Cup, I was going to go to Qatar for the World Cup. My lady friend is going down with one of my clients is going down. But the thing is, I can't bring my dog in cabin. Plus, it's in Qatar, so I'm passing on this one. But usually I go to World Cup. I've been all over the place. This Saudi Arabia thing just didn't work out because it's a difficult thing down there. Dubai is nice. It's much different than Qatar. You'll enjoy Dubai.
What scares me about this is my friends want to take Dubai. They want to drive 6 hours to Qatar. I told them, I think it's a little dangerous because we'll probably go through Saudi Arabia, and we're Americans.
When I was in Jeddah, they didn't let us do very much. It's a whole different ambiance. I have a client that wanted to go down there, but as soon as he hears World Cup in Qatar, a lot of people back off. One mistake, these countries are very strict. The Women's World Cup is going to be even more interesting because it's in a civilized place. Because this Qatar place, you can't even wave a flag, you can't do this, you can't do that, and then you can't bring the dog in the cabin.
First world problems, right? What do you mean my dog's got to go in the belly of the plane? That ain't happening. My wife could go in the belly of the plane, but my dog's flying with me.
You'll like Dubai. The beaches are nice. The malls are nice. Not one of my favorite places I've been to. I've been all over. I've been down to Africa, everywhere.
When we first met Paulo on Sports Betting Weekly, he was in Greece. He left Greece to go to Canada, and then the plague came, so he's kind of stuck where he is now. The plans are me and Vicky are going to visit him in Greece. Let's get to Paulo's soccer plays.
Okay, my first play that I like, Hong Kong First Division, Eastern District, SA. This game is going to have goals. goals inside. I don't see Eastern District having much of a difficult time. My second selection is Little Goretz in Bulgaria. Little Goretz is a very strong team. They play in the Champions League, so I don't see them having much difficulty beating this team that they're playing with. And my third play, the big surprise of the English Soccer League this year, Arsenal. Could you believe it that Arsenal is leading the league this year? And I think this week against Southampton, I can see Arsenal scoring goals, getting the win, and I also see them scoring at least over 1.5 goals, but I do see them winning and continuing their winning ways. That's what I like in soccer.
When I talk to Paolo about soccer, we talk about a lot of the live action.
Last night on the MLS, and my big client stayed up all night overseas in Europe. In the MLS, Los Angeles FC that was playing the Galaxy, 7-1 in live play. In the last minute, the goal scored, and they brought it in, 7-1. The biggest winner of the day yesterday, besides my Barcelona game, which I went perfect, 3-0. 20-1, 25-1 in live play. We hit one with Chaz, Uruguay. Some of these teams, they just score in the last minute. For some reason, this last minute thing is a big thing. So live action is pretty good in soccer.
So he told me about Barcelona, and they were big favorites at the time. I waited, and then he said, I'm also going to bet the first half over a half a goal. So just one goal needs to be scored. Then I get Barcelona at minus 237. They were at minus 7 something. So minus 237 is a lot better because it's 0-0. Then I go to get my next bet in, and it won't take the bet. Barcelona scored. I won those bets within 2 minutes.
Chaz become pretty good at it. He's actually been hitting some good live play winners in soccer last minute. Goals scored in the last 30 seconds. The NFL this week, 2 games have caught my eyes. I really think that Tampa Bay is about to break out and score a lot of points against this Carolina team. It's at minus 13.5 right now. Carolina traded McCaffrey. I just see Tom Brady that this is going to be a breakout game. I can see them covering the spread. I don't think Carolina has a defense. I don't think Carolina has an offense. So what do you think about this pick?
Carolina is a team that's going to be rebuilding now. They lose Christian McCaffrey in a trade. He goes to the 49ers. So they're not going to have much of a running game. Are you going to trust Baker Mayfield to make the throws? Are you going to expect this Carolina Panther team that's played very good defensively all season long to shut down a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that really got shut down by the Pittsburgh Steelers last week? I don't think it's going to happen back-to-back weeks. I expect Tom Brady to explode. I think it's going to be a completely different Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I think it's absolutely going to be an absolute shutdown of a mediocre football team in the Carolina Panthers. I think it's going to be an absolute blowout.
I think they're done.
You took the words out of my mouth. I think this game by halftime's over. Baker Mayfield going against his Tampa defense? No. I really like Jacksonville this week. I think Jacksonville's a good play. And if you looked at the game last week that the Jacksonville Jaguars lost against Indianapolis, if only at the end the defense would have just held them down. I mean, they scored points.
I think the Jaguars win too. The Giants are having a very good season. The Baltimore Ravens gave up that game. If Lamar Jackson didn't drop the ball back-to-back times, being up 20-10 with 6 minutes left, Baltimore wins that game. I don't think Peterson, I don't think Trevor Lawrence and this team that likes to run the ball and likes to play defense this year is going to lose this game because I don't think they're going to make the mistakes that Lamar Jackson made.
Carolina, they've lost against the spread in 12 of the last 13. You could have paid your mortgage. If you hopped on Carolina and just realized, bet against Carolina, it got you through 13 weeks of NFL football. Every week they lost against the spread except one. That kid made that mistake, the Baltimore quarterback. You can't make that mistake. High school kids get yelled at for making that mistake. College kids aren't supposed to make it. You can't make it in the NFL. He threw it right in that guy's belly button. They tell you, throw it out of bounds, don't throw back across the middle, and he hit the guy right in the belly button.
He made 2 mistakes back-to-back times, which cost his team a chance. And Baltimore's supposed to be good this year, but going into week 7, 3-3, that is not what they expected this year.
I think we might have an upset special. I would not be surprised if the Lions go into Dallas. Chaz knows that my upset specials, I've picked 12-1. I would not be surprised if the Lions this week go into Dallas and could play a little defense. With the offense the Lions have, the Lions score a lot of points. But the problem is it being the defense. I think the Lions this week at +7, either they're going to get blown out or they have a chance to win this game.
I have the Cowboys winning, but I think it's going to be a blowout. I think Dak coming back, I think he has a lot to prove. He wants to show everybody that he is the quarterback and it is his team. I think he's going to go into this game against the Lions. I think the Lions, the last couple of weeks, their defense is falling apart. St. Brown is not healthy. He hasn't been healthy really since week 2. This is not the same team they were in the first 2 weeks of football. Jared Jared Goff, who I've been complimenting for the last year and a half, who I couldn't stand when he played for the Rams, he has been absolutely pathetic the last 3 weeks. I don't know what they're going to do against Dallas Cowboys, especially that defense that's going to get at you. Micah Parsons, I don't know how they score any points in this game.
This is a game that either the Lions are in it or it's a blowout. The most interesting game is the Kansas City against San Francisco game. When this game opened up, the Kansas City Chiefs were 1.62 and San Francisco was 2.48. All of a sudden now the Chiefs are 1.82. San Francisco 2.16. The bottom line is this: the San Francisco 49ers defense can shut down the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs this week, if they just play a little bit defense, they take this game.
I think adding Christian McCaffrey definitely opens a lot of paths for Deebo Samuel. You don't have to run the ball up the middle with him. You can use him in so many different areas of the line. You can move him in the slot. You can move him on the outside. You can even use him as a decoy, as a running back with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. You could use Christian McCaffrey as a catching running back, wide receiver. So I think it's going to open up the field for them. Nick Bosa will be back this week. This defensive line is going to be healthy. Look at Patrick Mahomes' numbers when he plays against a top pass rushing team. They're not very good. I think he's going to have a lot of problems this week. They are going to San Francisco. The advantage goes to San Francisco. And this might be the first time in a very long time that you see Patrick Mahomes lose back-to-back games, especially this year.
I'm leaning a little bit on the Chiefs, but what I'm seeing is exactly what you're saying, that all of a sudden the line is starting to shift because the money's really moving on San Francisco. I still like the Chiefs, but it's not my top selection. There's a lot of games that appear easy, but they're actually not. Like if you look at the Cleveland game and you look at the Tennessee with the Colts game, I'm not really convinced they're solid favorites, the teams that are taking the money.
The only way Detroit beats Dallas is they got to outscore Dallas. Dallas has got a pretty good defense.
I think Dallas has more to prove in this game than the Lions do. Nobody thought that the Lions were going to be as competitive as they were in the first 2 games of the season. I think they're a rebuilding team. I think they still have a lot of work to do. I think Campbell could be fired at the end of the season. Crazy to say that after watching him in Hard Knocks and work out with his players, but I expected more from this team. I think they have gotten worse. This defense hasn't looked good.
This game's going to be close, but one disappointment that I've seen is Jared Goff still making a lot of mistakes. This team should be better than what it's showing so far.
Dallas is going to eat them up. They're like wolves, and once they smell the blood, they're going to attack. And Dak Prescott, I expect to get on that field and have a lot more to prove. After Cooper Rush had that 4-game winning streak, lost against the Eagles last week, which we expected. I think the Dallas Cowboys and the organization wanted Cooper Rush to play in that game. Win or lose, they don't want to deal with the turmoil if Dak comes in and he loses a game and say, we want Cooper Rush. So I think they wanted to prove a point.
I'm not sure about Dallas's offense because that last game he didn't look good, but the last, year and a half, Dak has not been the greatest quarterback in the history of sliced bread.
And I think that's what people are questioning, his ability to come back from that injury and make the throws. Who's he throwing to besides CeeDee Lamb? There's really nothing. Now, they brought back Gallup, and he's played better. He hasn't played with Gallup because in the beginning of the season, Gallup wasn't healthy yet. And Cooper Rush, he is not Dak Prescott. He doesn't have the ability, the throwing arm.
I'm covering sports a little differently this year because I'm writing about it. One of the things that I'm noticing is, holy cow, there are a lot of teams that don't have a starting quarterback. They got a guy out there, he's their starter, but he's not good enough to be a starting quarterback because the world doesn't have 32 of them, and I think it blows my mind.
I only think there's 15 quarterbacks in the NFL that could start in any other team. The other guys, you could patch it up. Even Zach Wilson, who's played better, and he's still young. Trevor Lawrence, we don't know what he is yet. 17 teams are questioning if they have their quarterback of the future.
And it really is amazing how many first-round draft choices don't get a second contract.
I think that the biggest disappointment is Baker Mayfield. I don't see how this guy this week is going to put up points against the Tampa Bay defense. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is still a top 5 defense. It's one of the best defenses in the NFL. And Tom Brady still get the job done. Tampa Bay's been having some bad games. I think the only team that can challenge the Buffalo Bills for a Super Bowl is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I disagree. I don't believe Tom Brady is the same quarterback he once was. I think they have a lot of problems offensively. You have all those weapons in that running game that has been good over the last 2 years with Fournette. Fournette looks old. That running game looks old. I do not believe that this team is good enough. And the only team right now that can challenge the Buffalo Bills is probably the Eagles. And San Francisco adding Christian McCaffrey, and if that defense could get healthy, their secondary has played well. If they can have Christian McCaffrey, he gives them another dimension offensively where they can use Deebo Samuel in the open field. I think San Francisco's as dangerous as the Eagles, as dangerous as any team to knock off any team in the NFC. I think they are right now with Christian McCaffrey is just as talented as the Eagles now.
The biggest disappointment on the other side is the Green Bay Packers.
And the Rams.
And the Rams. Coming down to the whole thing, the Buffalo Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. There might be a challenge from the 49ers, but if you look at the Buffalo Bills, they've got offense, they've got defense, and look at last week against Kansas City. They've been putting up points.